I was a vacationer to the 30A region. Those of you that are in Destin, Rosemary Beach, I was a seaside guy, and I would rent. And it's been $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 a week to rent. My wife and I said, you know what? Instead of spending $7,000, why don't we buy a place that we can have a $3,000 mortgage on, and let's try out this vacation rental thing. So instead of buying there, I identified an underserved market at the time. Gulf Shores back then was not what it is today. And we bought our first property there, and we kind of hit the ground running.
Love it. I love it. And because you and I have talked about this offline, because I love the 30A area. We've got a property that we manage down there. It's beautiful, but it's not cheap. It's not cheap down there. So what were some of the pros and cons, I guess, of going away from a place that was a little bit more established, where it was a higher price point, to almost like testing out the waters on the Gulf Shores? Like what
well,
kind of
I guess I kind of had a competitive advantage.
What's up, everybody? My name is Mike Sjogren, here with my co-host
Emmanuel Pani.
We're part of a group of specialized real estate investors you've probably never heard of.
We didn't start with deep pockets or wealthy families, and we don't rely on 401ks, mutual funds, or traditional real estate investing.
In fact, many of us don't even own the properties that fund our freedom. If you ask the money experts out there, they'd say what we do is impossible, yet it's happening every single day.
It's happening through a new niche called short-term rentals.
We are Short-Term Rental Nation, and these are our secrets. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Short-Term Rental Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Mike Sjogren, here with my main man and brother from another mother, Mr. Emmanuel Pani. What is going on, E?
My brother, so good to see you guys. Man, I don't think we have had a busier April, May in the last 10 years. And I don't know if any of our listeners have been in this game for this long and they can kind of holler back at us and then just let us know how you guys are doing. But I've never had this level of occupancy this time of the year ever. And it's just insane. And I've had to lock down. I'm not taking bookings for next year because I keep jacking up the prices. And I think, Bill, which I'm so grateful that you're on this show, because I remember you talking about it on the many clubhouses we've been on together, but I keep jacking up prices and people are like, sure, no problem. I'm like, wait, I need to lock up the calendar 1 second. I'm just going to start a wait list because it's just, it's wild. Like I'm talking like I'm adding like 25%, 30% to our rates, and people are like, sure, no problem. Send us the form. I'm like, you're supposed to say no. Like, why are you? This is a year in advance. Why are you agreeing with me? I'm like, okay, yeah, we can. So I went through all of our back systems. I am blocking the calendars. Right now, we're only taking 3-4 months out, just because occupancy has been crazy, cash flow has been crazy, and my assistant, she's amazing. Like, this is my first week with my executive assistant. My email finally makes sense. Like, I don't have thousands of emails unread and everything is organized. So yeah, man, it's just good. It's
You're
just
in the
good,
flow, buddy.
Yeah, man. And I saw the Cove is reopening and it looks amazing as always.
Wait till you see the new deck, man. It's sick. We're adding like a full like built-in bar. We did like a herringbone pattern. Like it's gonna look unbelievable.
Yeah, but that view from your deck, man, every time. And I I have a couple of friends in Mass. I'm like, dude, if you guys are not going anywhere, this is the spot for you, because it's, first of all, I know it's gonna be top notch, but those views, man, I'm like, oh, it looks so nice. So
we're pretty lucky up there. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive in, because I want to introduce our buddy Bill here. So today on the show we have Bill Faeth with us. He's been involved in real estate for almost 25 years with both the commercial and residential investing. In 2015, he switched the majority of his residential portfolio to short-term rentals with long-term after seeing an opportunity to increase profit and reduce risk. Bill currently has a multi-million-dollar portfolio of short-term rental properties, primarily located in vacation rental markets with a focus on beach, lake, and mountain properties. He's leveraged years of successful business growth strategies to specialize in maximizing vacation rental profits by turning $50,000 annual revenue properties into $90,000 properties, We're definitely going to talk about that today. Yielding high profit via self-management. Bill shares these profit boosting strategies along with how to self-manage, holding real estate, and so much more so you can build your short-term rental wealth while your guests make your mortgage payments. Without further ado, Bill, thanks for being here, buddy.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited for today.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun. So kind of take us back a little bit. Like what was that trigger that was like, I'm going to switch this from long-term to short-term? Like, where did that come from?
I first was introduced to Airbnb. I live in just south of Nashville, Tennessee, and I was actually literally every Tuesday night, I was in downtown Nashville at city council meetings because in my former life prior to getting into this, I built a $9 million ground transportation company in Nashville, and we were fighting Uber and Lyft and all of that type of regulation. And I kept seeing these bills that started coming in from something about Airbnb, and then it was the short-term rental stuff. And it was like more volatile than what we were dealing with. And that's when I kind of found out about it. I had some long terms that were here. I still had some long terms on the West Coast. And I started looking into it. And then I had a client of mine in the ground transportation space that was getting into the short-term rental space as well. And he does what you and I do now too. And so I was kind of introduced to it. And I've learned probably the most valuable lesson before I even invested into my first short-term rental. And that was don't invest in Nashville, Tennessee, because the regulation was just way too volatile. And if you've been in it a while, like 15, 16, 17, we're like Nashville was the #1 market in the US. Stronger than Palm Springs or Gulf Shores or Destin or Gatlinburg or the Poconos or any place else around there. So I went down and I started investing into my first drive-in vacation rental market, which was Gulf Shores, Alabama. And I talk about it a lot. And I was a vacationer to the 30A region. Those of you that are in Destin, Rosemary Beach, I was a seaside guy and I would rent. And it's been $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 a week to rent. My wife and I said, you know what, instead of spending $7,000, why don't we buy a place that we can have a $3,000 mortgage on and let's try out this vacation rental thing. So instead of buying there, I identified an underserved market at the time. Gulf Shores back then was not what it is today. And we bought our first property there and we kind of hit the ground running.
Love it. I love it. And because you and I have talked about this offline, because I love the 30A area. We've got a property that we manage down there. It's beautiful, but it's not cheap. It's not cheap down there. So what were some of the pros and cons, I guess, of going away from a place that was a little bit more established, where it was a higher price point, to almost like testing out the waters on the Gulf Shores? Like what
well,
kind of
I guess I kind of had a competitive advantage. I was a little bit, one of my groomsmen in a former life when I played professional golf, there was a gentleman named William Wilson. If you're familiar with that area, he used to own the Frankista Beach Hotel Resort. He owns Frankista Beach property, manages over 1,100 single family homes and condos that he manages today. He owns almost 100 properties down there. He's pretty big time. And luckily I've known him for 25, 30 years. And I've looked at properties in Seacrest, in watercolor, in the seaside area. And what he taught me is still something I abide by, specifically in beach communities. He said, Bill, don't spend the money to be on the beach. If you're looking at as investment, go second tier. So I was looking at second tier there. And what I was looking at, I wanted 4 bedrooms was my sweet spot. I didn't want 3. I wanted 4 or 5. I was looking at $1.3 million for that with views. And this was 5 years ago, right? Well, he's the one that introduced me to Gulf Shores. He said, go there, you'll be able to get a 30% discount. So long story short, I bought a house, paid $635,000, got a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, second tier. And that's the case study. When you talk about $50,000 to $90,000, the year before I bought it, that was under a property management company, a big one that everybody would know. They did $55,000 in revenue. Well, I bought it and I did $98,700 in the next year. And there's a lot of these things that I do from a value add standpoint that I put into my small properties and I put into my luxury properties. And that was kind of my first, dipping my toe in the water, if you will. And then I just kept rolling after that. And I love it. And the one thing that I learned from the first person that influenced me was drive-in vacation rental markets were the most recession-proof through the recession. And I also think they're the ones that have been impacted in the most positive fashion during COVID, when the urban markets were really being hit hard at this time last year. 2020 was the best year that I've ever had in November, it was either November or December, I put out a YouTube video on my YouTube channel saying that 2021 is going to be better than 2020, and here's why. And a lot of people thought that I was crazy, but what Emmanuel was saying when we started, I think a lot of us are seeing those same things that are happening. I'm experiencing the same in all the markets that I'm in as well.
Can you, before we move on, can you explain what that second tier mean? Because obviously you said second tier, and then you said I'm looking at 1.2 to 1.5, and then ended up buying something for 600. So that it's not, if people don't know what you mean by that, it doesn't really sound like a second tier property, but you don't mean about the quality, right? You mean about
location. So the second tier would be, and there's two different descriptions here. One house between you and the beach, or you and the lake, or you and the, the ski lodge, whatever it is, or one street. So, and it's funny, in the Panhandle, like in Destin and Panama City Beach and stuff, they refer to it as houses mostly. But then in Gulf Shores, it's streets, right? So realistically, you could almost classify me as beachfront, but I did have a street that was kind of off to the left, but I could walk straight to the sand from my property. So we classified it as second tier. So it's kind of, just think about, really the easiest visualization is beach here, street, then that would be the second house. So you have a house, street, then that would be second tier.
Gotcha.
Love it.
Which is a great point.
Yeah, for sure. So then what was that next deal? You got this first one going, and I definitely want to break down in a little bit how you were able to take it from 55 to 98 and maybe share some of those nuggets. But you get that first one going. What was that next deal? What was like, okay, I want to keep going with this. What did that look like?
The next deal. So it's funny. I wrote this case study, and this is kind of what launched my career in the coaching, because I'm very new to this in the short-term rental space. I've done it in other entrepreneurial spaces in the ground transportation space. So I developed the case study, and it took me 4 years to develop the case study on it, right? Well, I built, over the last 5 years, I think the most important thing that I've done is I built this evaluation process, a property evaluation process. And the second one, Michael, I didn't follow that process. I was literally sitting in a hockey game in Dallas, Texas, and in between the second and third period at the Winter Classic, I'm doing this, and I signed a contract to buy a property. Long story short, I lost $100,000 on that property because I didn't follow my evaluation process. So I got a pretty bad taste in my mouth not following my process that I'd used in long-term rentals, that I'd used in commercial real estate, that I'd used in the first short-term rental evaluation process. But you know what? My wife and I marked it up as a learning curve, really a mistake. It was, me being an idiot, paying attention to the hockey game more than what I was doing. So I bought the house sight unseen, literally a FaceTime from a realtor. I didn't go and see it. We started doing a BRRRR, if you will, and literally we found structural issues. And it just became this money pit nightmare. And I exited and technically lost about $97,000 on that deal. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that happened to me, to be honest with you. I don't like losing money ever. And that was a huge hit to take. But I think that set me up to learn that lesson early on, to really make sure that you and I talk about this a lot on Clubhouse, right? Process, systems and processes. And there's so many people in our industry that do not have the systems and processes. I can guarantee you, I will not deviate from that evaluation process ever again.
So what happened there? Because I mean, like, you're a seasoned guy, right? And you know what you know. So what was that moment there? Like, what, if you look back at like your mindset, you were just, this is going to work, where you're just in those moments of like, everything I touch turns into gold kind of moment, or was it just, you didn't?
So there were two things. One, I wasn't paying attention. Yeah. Literally, this deal happened in about 3 hours from the time it hit the market till the time I put it under contract. Yeah. No contingencies, all cash offer, close in 6 days. And I'm sitting in a fucking hockey game in Dallas, Texas, outdoors, freezing my ass off with a cold beer. And I'm with my biggest client at the time outside of this industry, and I'm staying with them. And it was the morning after New Year's Eve. So it was a molotov cocktail for bad decision making. Yeah. But then probably my biggest weakness is trying to help people. And I got tied in with a contractor that I met through my property management company at my previous house, because I started for the first 3 months with a property management company. And he had a bad experience, and I wanted to help him. And long story short, he ended up screwing me. And I was doing a remote BRRRR, right? and he was sending me pictures and stuff like that. But he was glazing over on the work. The real shit wasn't being done. And, I'd invested another $55,000 into what I paid for the property. I flew down 9 weeks later, and we're still at like ground zero. It was just all BS that was happening. So he was scamming me, at that point when I was trying to help him, and I'd hired his wife to work for me at my other property and got rid of my property management company. And that's kind of been my weakness, Emmanuel, to be honest with you. I'd get sucked in just trying to help people that are in need. And I've been burned a few times in my life, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And that keeps repeating. That's like the third or fourth time that it's happened. So I feel good that it's actually happened multiple times, because I don't want to lose that feeling to want to help people, to be honest with you. So it was an expensive lesson. And, but if I amortize that over the next 20, 25 years, it's not really that bad.
Yeah. No, and I love that. And I love how honest you are. And I tend to be the same way, right? I tend to be on the nicer, kinder side of things. And I keep getting those lessons too. But at the same time, I am on the same boat. I believe that feeds my good karma. And then the universe just kind of turns to rewards me anyways. And then you can believe in that or not. But when you're honest and you try to help people and then you get fucked over by people, that happens. But it doesn't change who you are as a person. So I love that.
Thank you. I agree. And I think that, for us I don't like the word, but I guess influencers or, people that are on podcasts and Clubhouse and social media and have a following. It's very important to share those mistakes that we make. And I see so many people talk about how many properties they have, how much money they're making, all this type of stuff, but they don't share the bad. And that, in my opinion, that's really where, we learn the most valuable lessons from. And I know in my golf career growing up that it's very difficult to learn how to win a golf tournament. You have to fail and fail and fail unless you're Tiger Woods. To learn from those mistakes mentally, to get into a space to be able to break through and try to win. There's a gentleman that I know and that I follow named Dean Graziosi, who works with Tony Robbins. And Dean chalks these types of things up. He calls them success tax. It's what we do after we pay that tax that becomes valuable or invaluable. That's what makes that lesson, that success tax, either worth it or not worth it. For me, I think I've done 17 properties since then. I've never made that mistake again. I think I've got my reward for paying that success tax.
100%.
Love
His
that
book,
mindset.
Millionaire Success Habits, is so good. If the listeners haven't read that, you definitely want to pick that up. Millionaire Success Habits by Dean Graziosi. Make sure we put that in the show notes too, so people can pick that up. So you said that since then you've done about 17 deals. What's your focus now, just for the listener? So for context, we've had a lot of different folks, a lot of our buddies that we've met through Clubhouse. A lot of them are focused on big numbers, 100 units, 200 units, 300 units. And you and I have had side conversations around that. And, my target has always been finding the most profitable properties. And you've lasered that in even more so than I have on targeting more high-end luxury properties that can do 1 to multiple 6 figures. So kind of break down your strategy and kind of what you're focused on now, what markets you're in, things like that.
I don't want any more than I can manage by myself with this little thing right here. Pretty simple. I've got 3 monitors here that I use for other businesses that are too time consuming, that are too, heavy, if you will. And it's one of the reasons, even though I'd built a really nice $9 million ground transportation company, I exited because it was too time consuming. It was too heavy. So I currently am looking to max out in the plan today. And I do have a business plan, and I beg everybody that's in this is a business, and it's not 100% passive. So you need a business plan. 20 properties. That's it. 4 to 5 of them. I have 3 of the probably 5 right now are in the middle bucket. And I kind of look at 3 buckets of why people get into this business. And one is, hey, I bought a property to use for our family, a vacation rental, if you will. Now I want to figure out, maybe I can just pay the mortgage by, starting to rent it out and do short-term rentals. Bucket number 2 would be, okay, I want to own this property to use today or for retirement. And that's 50% of my decision, or 50% of my why, and then 50% is a financially driven decision. And that's where I fall in those 3 properties. And the other ones are strictly financial, right? So I've got a mix of bucket number 2 and bucket number 3. And bucket number 2 is the most important one for me because I'm 47. I have 2 daughters. One's 15, one's 11. When the youngest daughter goes to college, I plan on selling this monstrosity of a house that I live in today because it's the worst investment I've ever made. Sure, I paid $725 and it's worth $1.3 million today, but it generates zero cash flow. So I want to get rid of that, and then I want to live in the other places. So if I have at least 4, that's 3 months, in Montana, at the beach, at my lake house, in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I can play golf, and I can snowmobile, and I can get a suntan in December, and all those different types of things. So I think the why I do things has really 2 different pillars to it. Then the next one is going to be strictly from an investment standpoint. So 2 things that I live by. 1, I don't want my portfolio to get bigger than I can manage by myself. I self-manage. My wife helps me with design, but I do all of my managing for the 15 properties that I have currently, 9 that I own, 6 that I manage. So I just got into property management in mid-January because of Clubhouse, to be honest with you. I never even thought about getting into management or co-hosting. And it was really kind of listening to TJ, to Johnny, Noble Crawford, and then a lot from Julie and what Julie George did with her $1 Million Host, I think is the name of her book, and the stuff she did down in Australia. Just kind of piqued my interest. And I'm always a guy, I've got OCD, ADD, every acronym you can imagine for an entrepreneur. So I've done 27 startups, really the management company's 28. I just can't sit still. And I don't like big business. So I don't want to be the Guild. I don't want to be Sonder. I don't want to be Stay Alfred that's not around anymore. I want to have 20 properties. I'll own 10. I'll manage 10. So like the very first property I took on was doing $140,000 a year. And I've got it on a $200,000 run rate now. And I've had it since mid-January. And then that led into another property, which was a celebrity. And then that led into another property, which was a celebrity. So now I've kind of built this niche of managing not vacation, because one of them's here in Nashville, but short-term rentals for celebrities in that luxury space. And I've never marketed. I don't go into the co-hosting groups. I'm not actively looking for them. They just come, right? So, but I won't take anything on that's doing less than 100 grand that I don't believe I can increase revenue by at least 40 to 50%. I don't feel that it's worth my time if I can't make at least $25,000 to $30,000 per property. Same reason I got into the luxury space. It takes me the same amount of time to manage a guest, a transaction, if you will, a check-in, servicing, hospitality, checkout for $175 a night as it does for $1,500 a night. So I don't see a difference. I don't want that volume. I've had 700 employees in a previous life. I believe that this business, at least for me, is about creating a lifestyle. So if I can build up my assets, and I know I'm the black sheep kind of in the Clubhouse space, most people are into management and co-hosting, master leasing, and most prevalent probably rental arbitrage. And I get that part of it, but I want to own the asset. So that's part of my retirement plan. So I look at when I go into a place like Scottsdale or even my lake property, which, 10 years ago, 5 years ago even, who would have thought that lake properties would be increasing at 20%, 30% a year in appreciation, especially in the middle of nowhere. So part of my evaluation process is the last 3-year run rate of appreciation in these markets before I go in and penetrate a new market. So I look at it as a double whammy. If I can do $200,000 in revenue and I can have EBITDA of 90 to 110 on that, and I can gain 3%, 5%, and in some markets right now, 20% annual appreciation, that's a double whammy for me.
Yeah. And for some of our newer listeners, you just want to break down what EBITDA is just so they understand what that means.
Earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation. A lot of people, we talk in numbers. One, in revenue in the short-term rental space, people will say they did $100,000 in revenue, but that includes fees, that includes taxes, that includes cleaning fees. Just to clarify, when I give you a rental number, it doesn't include any of that stuff. It's literally less fees, less taxes, and less cleaning fees, because that's all a pass-through, at that point. So if I'm telling you 100 and you're thinking about that, it's really probably around 135, 140. You can add 30 or 40% onto that. Like in Gulf Shores, I'm paying 13% taxes, just local down there. So I think it's really important to understand the lingo and the jargon and the acronyms of ADR, EBITDA, really understanding you have revenues, you have gross profit, and then you have your net income or EBITDA, on the back end.
Thank you for breaking that down.
Yeah, that is so good. And you know what's funny? This is why I've been wanting to have you on, because it's just, I feel like I'm on podcast, but now I actually get to see you do it, and it's amazing, right? Because you get into flow and you just come out with so much good information. So you keep bringing up, and you've done it a couple of times, about how you're able to increase and really increase, right, at a huge level, what the property makes in the course of a year. So is that a blueprint? Like, do you have a blueprint that you put every property through that kind of guarantees you that that's going to happen, or what does that look like?
I wouldn't say that anything is going to be a guarantee by any means, but what I will tell you is there's a process, right? And it starts with market analysis. So you guys are in all the Facebook groups like I am, I'm sure, and you see, oh my gosh, hey, I'm thinking about going into Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And everybody says, no, don't go in there. There's 7,000 STRs. Why would you want to go there? Why would anybody want to invest into Kissimmee, Florida? Well, Kissimmee's a really great example, and I do not own there. But everybody owns what in Kissimmee that's having issues? 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom condos, right? 3-bedroom condos. There's a million of those. But you go like 10 minutes away to Davenport and you can buy an 8 or a 10-bedroom house for $900,000. It'll generate $250,000 a year in revenue. And now, most importantly, Emmanuel, you've got a bigger canvas. So what I look at is, this is the canvas of a condo. I can't do anything on the outside of my condo. I can change the flooring, I can change the internal paint, I can do all that type of stuff, but I can't do anything outside. And you will never find one guest ever that selects an Airbnb, a VRBO, or any short-term rental that says, wow, I decided to come to Kissimmee because that flooring was amazing in that 2-bedroom condo that I found. They're coming to Kissimmee because of freaking Disney World. That's the only reason anybody would go for that godforsaken city. I love it down there. But they're not. The reason, the why people are coming to the market is what people miss as hosts. That's your positioning. That's what you're marketing. That's how you're designing your properties, right? And then if I can take that and understand that my property is secondary, I've got my marketing hat on right now because I own a marketing agency, right? My property is secondary. And if I focus on all the stuff that my guest is going to do when they come to my property, it could be a traveling nurse that wants to find the best sushi when she gets off her 24-hour shift. Could be the business traveler that's going to downtown Boston that wants to know about Abe and Louie's and the best Italian in the North End. And like, I love to go jogging. I just lost at Boston Commons, and that's why I would stay at the hotel, Michael, that we talked about on Boylston Street, right? That's why I'm coming, and that's why I stay in certain places. It's not about our property. If we get that, then we can create the content, the listing titles, the listing copy, the images, and put them in the proper order and design our property for those ideal buyers. That's number one. Number two is focusing on the amenities and the outside of the house. I don't know very many people that go to short-term rentals that want to stay inside of our properties, right? They don't want to go stay in a 1-bedroom flat in Boston and just be cramped in 700 square feet. They want to get out and they want to go explore, correct? When you go to Teton Village in the Grand Tetons outside of Jackson Hole, what are they going there for? They're going there to fucking ski or look for moose or whatever it is. So that's what I focus on, right? But Amanda, the biggest thing is that in the market evaluation, then I take the canvas here and I want bigger canvas. That gives me more opportunity to change things. But there's also an evaluation process of my investment. I've made small investments. The single biggest investment that I've made from a percentage of return based on increased ADR has been incorporating coffee bars in every one of my properties. I bought my Lake property in September. A friend of mine, we were talking about coffee that I go to conferences with, and I do speaking, or used to speak quite a bit at conferences. And he's like, man, we're just talking about it. He's all, where's the best coffee? I said, I don't drink fucking coffee. Have you not noticed? I have a Diet Coke. I don't drink coffee. And he's like, dude, you should put a coffee bar into one of your short-term rentals. And I'm like, dude, I don't like coffee. He's all, well, you tell everybody else. It's not about what you like. It's what your guests want. I'm like, you're 100% correct. I'm not following my own deal here. So I went out and I spent $812 on a coffee bar, Keurig, full coffee pot, 21 different types of coffee from espresso to hot tea to cocoa, K-cup, ground, beans, frother, French press, all the shit that you can do at Starbucks, $800. And that gave me 4 months worth of coffee. And that's in my first 5 images when they log into any of the OTAs. And I'm marketing that on social media. So I don't know what percentage of people drink coffee, but I think I'm in the minority by not being a coffee drinker, right? So when those people see the coffee bar, they're like, what the fuck? I can go to a lake house and get unlimited coffee and he's got all this stuff. And I'm talking like organic Costa Rican beans. I'm not just talking like Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts shit, right? This is great stuff, I guess. And that's like the number one thing that I've been reviewed. So on a low one, that's a small investment. But like when I went to Gulf Shores, I put in a golf cart. Very prevalent in 30A. You know, Mike, your property probably has one. Nobody had golf carts where I was at. It was actually in Fort Morgan, about 15 minutes outside of Gulf Shores. Nobody had a golf cart. Then I said, you know what? I was able to spend $6,500. I raised my rates by $175 a night. I said, what if we had some stand-up paddle boards? Nobody's got those. What if I get some bikes? What if I do all this type of stuff, right? So then when I went to, you know, my lake properties, I do the same thing in the mountains, the golf courses, all that type of stuff. It's just a small added values. But at the end of the day, I believe the most important thing is something that I've learned from a hotel manager that's a former client here in Nashville, Tennessee. It's not what's in our listing. It's not the amenities that we're marketing to increase ADR. It's what we're doing to plus one our guests. And what I mean by plus oneing our guests, this is from a lady named Dee Patel. She's a general manager of the Hermitage Hotel, which is the only 5-star, 5-diamond hotel in the state of Tennessee. And she's been at this hotel her entire career, like 22 years now. And she sat at a conference that I hosted, and we were talking about this plus one, and her and I had never talked about it, even though she was a client for 4.5 years. And it's really simple. It's the same thing if you have kids. We tell our kids when we drop them off at school every day, make somebody smile today. And that's the same thing, is they want it, every single employee, from the kitchen staff to the concierge, to the front desk, to Dee as the general manager, they are required to make their guests feel good at least once a day, every single day, with a plus one, something that's unexpected that's going to change the demeanor of the guest. So I've implemented that into every one of my properties, right? And those of you that are out there thinking, wow, I've got 10 units and I do apartments and rental arbitrage, it doesn't apply to me. The fuck it doesn't. It applies to every single person, whether you're charging $100 a night or $1,500. Because if you want to go from 100 to 200, like Jessica Fisher has done in Myrtle Beach with a studio condo, she's gone from 100 to 200 by doing the things that I'm talking about. That changes lives on that lower price point. You don't need to go spend $800 on a coffee bar, but do some plus ones for your guests. And let's really dive into what we're here to do. And that's to provide 5-star hospitality. Woo, sorry, Emmanuel.
I want to like drop
no, bro.
mic.
Fuck.
Damn.
We need a sound, like we need a DJ sound bar so I can do one of those like pow, 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 right now. You know what I mean? Like that's what we needed right in that moment. But it just, oh man, I don't even know what to say on top of that, because
that was so good.
Yeah.
One tactical question I'll tag on. 2 of them I'll tag onto that, right? Because I get these like technical questions all the time about like random stuff of like, if I have some of these amenities, should I charge extra or should I just bake it into a rate? And I'd love to hear your take on it, Bill, because you're doing it. But in my head, I'm like, I'd rather charge a little bit higher rate and just make it feel like they're getting way more value than try and nickel and dime them for like a bike rental and a paddleboard rental and all these other things as like add-on fees. But I'd like to hear your take on that.
So there's 6 different types of buyers that are out in our world, right? And there's the 2 biggest distinctive. There's 3, the 3 biggest distinctive out of the 6: price-driven buyers, impulse-driven buyers, and value-driven buyers. And I happen to be a value-based buyer. You know, I want to see the deck and I want to see the view at your new hotel. I don't give a shit what it costs. It doesn't matter if it's $200 or $500, right? If I'm in a resident and that creates value for me, I'm going to buy it, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like I can buy a cheaper phone than this new iPhone 12. It doesn't work as well as my iPhone 11, but you know what? I thought there was going to be value in buying it. So my ideal buyer is to go after the value-based buyer. I've made a career out of going out, understanding the buyer that I want, knowing what they need, knowing what their pain points are, knowing exactly how to position my copy, my images, and what I put into houses. And the same thing when I work, I mean, I just literally had a conference call, a design call for a gentleman today with my wife this morning, and he's doing 5 2-bedroom condos. But you have to define that buyer first. I've never been one to want to compete on price, except for in one business. And I invented an industry called glow-in-the-dark miniature golf, right? And we were the Yugo, the Hyundai of that industry. We had bigger companies come in behind us. Well, they could never grow past like 10 stores. We had 178 at one time, but we were the low-cost provider, the Walmart, right? So the number one thing that I'm going to tell you guys about pricing, you've either got to be the low-cost Walmart and you need to be at 100% occupancy, or you need to be at the high end and you need to probably shoot for around 50 to 60% occupancy. The problem in our industry is everybody ends up in the middle. Everybody ends up and that is no man's land. You're not churning enough profit. So when the refrigerator goes out and you got to go plunk down $2,200, it's going to be a tough purchase. But yet you're putting in all the time and effort in managing your OTA listings and your marketing, and you're just not maximizing your profit. So you either need to be on one end of the spectrum or the other. If you jump into Air DNA, you just need to eliminate 40% to 70%. You need to be in the bottom 20 or you need to be in the top 20. That's the only place that you should ever live in any business. There's a reason that Macy's are gone. There's a reason that Sears are gone. There's a reason that Ruby Tuesdays and Applebee's and these middle ends of everything is going out of business or has gone out of business in the last 10 years. And it was accentuated with COVID. Gap stores are gone. You look at Nordstrom's are still here, and the lower end products are still here, whatever they are, as well. So I really try to maximize my profit through that value add. But Michael, it's very strategic. In that same property, that lake house that I put in the coffee bar, I give away a $62 welcome gift with sunglasses, hats. The reason they're sunglasses and also the sunglass straps is the first weekend when we bought the house and we moved in and we started doing furnishings and design, but we also enjoyed the lake. I lost a pair of Maui gems that were $300 into the lake, right? And then I lost my backup pair, which are like, the $15 pair off Amazon, but I had no sunglasses. So now, most importantly, I can tell a story tied into my welcome gift, which is a +1. We don't tell them what they're getting, but that's going to resonate with every single person. And the best thing that could happen to me is that the dad's an idiot like I was, and he wears his Maui gems as he loses them in the lake. Then he's going to really see value and say, man, I should have wore those ugly sunglasses that Bill gave me. So if you can tell a story and you provide them something that's a value to them, that's a double whammy. So that's a +1. The other thing that we do, I made an $18,000 investment. And this will sound crazy to some people, but stick with me for 2 minutes. I built an outdoor fireplace. Already had the fire pit, right? But everybody on the lake, everybody in Gatlinburg, everybody in the mountains has fire pits. I poured a slab 15 by 15. I built a 12-foot tall, I didn't do it, but I paid somebody to do it, to come in and build a 12-foot tall rock, stone and rock fireplace. I put LED lighting on it. Then we built a pergola. Then we put the lighting. And the cool thing was, it wasn't cool 2 weeks ago, but we built it in the floodplain right on the edge of the lake. And it became a statement piece for our house. Well, when I did my Air DNA research, when I bought this place, we were looking about 51, 52% occupancy. Average ADR was $385 a night. I wasn't shooting for that. I was looking at the $1,000 a night properties on this lake that had more bedrooms, that had more baths, right? But I had a distinct advantage. I had a flat lot. I didn't have to walk down 100 steps and come down. So I had the ability to put this out there, and nobody else on this lake had it. So that $18,000 investment, I just closed the end of September. I've already got my return on investment on this. My average ADR right now is $762 a night. Just by adding that, adding 2 kayaks, 2 stand-up paddle boards, a swim mat, and my coffee bar. They don't know, and that's in the marketing. They don't know about the s'mores kits that my wife packages and brands and the welcome gifts and all that type of stuff that comes in with it. We market that we don't have internet. We do have internet. We tell them we don't have cable. We got DirecTV. So those are 4 things that we have as +1s when they walk in and say, oh shit, we didn't know that we have this. To where then what do? They have a better experience. They may not come back because not everybody goes to a lake every 3 months or every year. But I promise you, they're going to tell their friends about how we host. That's why I don't even have a 4.9 review. Everything's 100% 5-star reviews there. And I think a lot of it has to do with those +1s and that value add that they get when they go there that nobody else on that lake provides. What I will tell you is in Gulf Shore or Fort Morgan, where I live, I was in a subdivision with probably 150 homes. When I left that, I sold that property in December. There was probably about 10 or 15 golf carts there. And I know that people will catch on and do the same stuff, and they will eventually catch up with you. There's no question. So just take your profits and move to another market, or just stay there and keep doing what you're doing.
I love that. I love that. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. There were so many.
I only have 2 hours more to be able to do this, so.
We could go all day. We'll definitely do an encore though. We
could do a 24-hour into your Facebook group and YouTube channel like we do on Clubhouse, right?
Yeah, seriously. Well, before we get into the last question, first, Bill, I want to acknowledge you and all of your success, but more so just your authenticity and your willingness to share. And, you've donated hundreds of hours on Clubhouse alone, with E and I and all of our Clubhouse buddies now, just sharing all this information for free. And you just have a good, genuine, authentic heart that you just like to help people, even when it burned you. Right. And that's very rare to find these days. So I want to acknowledge you for that and all your success.
Well, I really appreciate that. And it's something that I think for us fellow hosts too, if there's a gentleman here in Nashville that taught me how to sell at a really important time in my life. And he has one premise, and it's give to get. And he said, if you can give more than you expect to receive and you just continue to give, it's going to come back in spades. And, our parents told us that growing up and all that type of stuff. I really believe that is prevalent for us as hosts. And the more that we can give, and it doesn't have to be expensive stuff, it can just be through better communication. It can be through personalization. And I'll share with you before you get to the last question, if it's okay with you, I'll get off topic a little bit. The number one thing that I do that I think really separates me from everybody else. And if you're on my email list, it's not the Facebook ads that I sent out this morning. That's a huge advantage that I have, but it's this. Hey, Michael, this is Bill. I'm the owner of Paradise Point. I just wanted to thank you for booking with us. I look forward to hosting with you. If you have any special requests, you can just reply to this text message or just message me in the platform. And I mean it seriously. We look forward to hosting you at our family home. That's it. 10 seconds. Text it to them if you have the number via VRBO. Send them in an email if you can capture their email or the ghosted email through Airbnb Pro, or if it's a direct booking through OwnerRez or SmartBnB, whatever you're using. That personal touch will change everything, because the number one thing I want you to understand is all of us at least have 48 hours to where when that booking happens, they're not a customer yet. They're a very highly qualified lead, and they typically, even on the strict policies, have 48 hours to cancel without any penalty. So we still need to nurture, and we need to start building that rapport and relationship right off the bat.
I love that. And where can folks learn more about you, find all your good stuff, your coaching, all that stuff? Where can people get in touch with you?
buildshorttermrentalwealth.com, private Facebook group, 4,000 people, Build Short-Term Rental Wealth, Build Short-Term Rental Wealth on YouTube. Build STR Wealth is my website, billfaeth.com. If you're in all the other free Airbnb groups and STR groups and the discussion and the ranting groups, I'm in there every morning. I'm in Nashville Central Time from about 4:30 in the morning till 7:30, just answering questions. Not in my own group, but in all the other groups. I spend about 3 hours a day, and that's part of my giving that I believe. I don't want to sell anything to anybody, and I'll give everything for free. And hopefully, that if I do a good enough job, you might end up buying something from me. And I believe that's the same mantra that we should have as hosts as well.
100%. Well, the question we ask all of our guests, and you may have already addressed this, but the question we ask
just
all
now
of our guests,
he was saying his best kept secret. That's what I thought.
Okay.
That's what I thought was happening already, and we haven't even asked the question. So I'm like, wow.
Are you gonna ask me my best kept secret?
Well, what's the number one secret to success with short-term rentals?
So I think the best kept secret is the selfie video right upon booking. But there's no question. So I do between 40 to 50% direct bookings through all of my portfolio wide, which is a pretty significant number for as new as most of my properties are. And it's through Facebook ads. Facebook ads is probably the biggest misnomer, because people think you got to be a marketing ninja, or, be like the old SEO adage of, the guy sitting in his underwear just battling on the computer and an internet guru. You don't. They're actually pretty easy. So that's the number one thing that I have as a competitive advantage that I believe has separated me from everybody else. And if I can give a shout out or a pitch, if that's okay, we're actually doing a free training, live training, 3 days, May 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So if you guys are interested, just go to the buildstrwealth.com and you can check that out. It's recorded, and it's the number one deal for me. I've been doing Facebook ads since 2013. I've spent just over $1 million on Facebook ads. And it takes a lot of trial and error. And the cool thing is in the last 5 years, I've probably spent maybe 50, 60,000 over that time. I believe that every single person should have $3 a day running on Facebook ads. $3 a day. That's 3 ads, $1 a day per ad. And here's the cool thing, that if you've been doing this for a while and you've collected emails, whether it's from VRBO or, hey, do we have a special guest there?
Yeah, little man came over here. You want to say hi to everybody real quick?
Hi.
Hi, I'm Bill. Nice to meet you. What's your name?
Hayden.
Hayden?
Caden.
Caden. Hi, Caden.
Kaden, your hair looks great, man. You have long hair like me.
Yeah. We're going to finish up, okay? And then I'll be up in a minute.
Okay.
Nice meeting you, Caden.
Say nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Love it. Peace out.
So cute.
So $1 a day, 3 ads. Oh, what is he podcasting too?
He's making his own video game on my iPad that he stole before this interview. So,
I love it.
Oh, we have a little developer in the house. Watch out. STR secret game for kids. That would be.
Get him started early.
That's awesome.
sorry,
So, Bill,
Bill,
you're
go
saying-
for it, buddy.
$1 a day, 3 ads.
Yeah, so run 3 ads. It's $90 a month. You run primary ad number 1, primary ad number 2. And then the third ad is retargeting. So a lot of people, if you've ever been to like Amazon and you click on those shoes or the hat or the phone case and you don't buy it, what happens? It follows you all the way around the internet. Well, you can do that too. And literally for $1 a day for that retargeting ad. So every one of my properties, I run 3 ads every day, 2 primary ads. One's typically a video and the other one's an image. And then I do a selfie video just like this that I'm running as my retargeting ad, introducing myself as the owner and talking about the value propositions that I'm gonna do. Just like you would see with Amazon, Under Armour, any of the major companies. It's not that difficult. You just need to know how to execute it. And I'm gonna be giving away all those secrets in May.
Well, I'm going to be tuning in for sure. 'Cause
Yeah,
I want to learn all those
absolutely.
gems too. So,
BuildSTRwealth.com.
love it. I love it. Well, thank you again for being here, Bill. Truly appreciate you, all your knowledge, and just being an awesome human being that I love hanging out with. So again, thank you for everything. And we'll definitely have to do an encore. And you want to just plug the event? I know it's a little early, but do you have all the details for that for the summer?
Yeah, so I'm actually hosting a boot camp on June 7th and 8th here in Nashville, Tennessee. You probably need to join. You can get that at buildstrwealth.com as well, or you can just DM me on Instagram, Bill Faeth, whatever. But it's a 2-day intensive boot camp. It's going to be 17 hours of training. We're going to have some special guests and friends that are going to be attending. This will be the 23rd boot camp that I've ran. We have super early bird pricing right now. I think we'll have about 3 or 4 seats left on that. Then the pricing is going to increase by $200. But I've got my flip chart over here. That whole pre-purchase evaluation process we talked about, we're going to be teaching that. How to become bankable, financing options, and what you need to do to prepare, whether you're looking at hard money, traditional loans, or going to commercials. There's a whole process you should do and a portfolio to become bankable. Guest speakers coming in. We're going to do basically my revenue management power strategies that I call them, of how I increase the ADR. And I do a lot more than just use price labs or beyond pricing. There's upselling, downselling strategies that we're going to teach. Superhost success. I've got 4 powerhouse superhosts. They're going to be up there to do Q&A. And then just a lot more stuff. We're going to there's a whole nother secret too. I guess secret number 2 is my buy, sell, trade marketplace strategy on Facebook. Literally, if you can learn how to leverage buy sell trade groups on Facebook and do Facebook ads, you can probably get away from 30 to 40% of the OTAs and all the commissions. So we're actually going to build ads here. You're going to walk away with an ad campaign running. My team's going to help you. We're going to give you a copy, swipe file, all that type of stuff.
Boom.
Soup to nuts.
Adding value to the end. I love it. Love your style. Well, thanks again for being here, brother. Again, truly appreciate you. Guys, definitely make sure you check out all those links. We'll have them down in the show notes. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, STR Nation, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. And in the comments, let us know what topics you want us to cover on upcoming episodes, and we'll make sure to get that in the books for you. And if you really want to learn how to launch, automate, and scale your short-term rental business, if you want to go deeper, then check out our free masterclass at strsecrets.com.